When I started studying jazz, I was told that mastering rhythm changes would help me become a better improviser. What I wasn't told and didn't realize for a long time is that rhythm changes is all over the place, often in disguise. But even more so, the fact that it is the perfect progression to understand how functional harmony works. So to demonstrate this, in this lesson I am going to strip rhythm changes down to its bare minimum chords. And you are going to discover that its very essence consists of a simple progression that is at the core of hundreds of rock and pop tunes that you know. And with this understanding, we are all going to explore various ways of dressing it back up, and we'll also see what happens when we apply the resulting harmony to those same simplistic rock tunes. As a result, you are going to learn how a two-chord pop tune can easily begin to sound like a jazz tune. And even if this is not your goal, you will find that you can use this knowledge in various ways to further your playing of standards. For those of you who might not be familiar with the term rhythm changes, it is used by jazz musicians in reference to the 1-6-2-5 progression, which is at the heart of the George Gershwin composition, I Got Rhythm. And here are the first 8 bars. So let's proceed to analyze it, and then we'll strip it down so we can peek under the hood. And to make things ultra simple, let's do this in the key of C major. Here we have the initial 4 measures. In the first 2 measures, the C major 7 is the tonic, or 1 major 7. The A minor 7 is the 6 minor 7, the D minor 7 is the 2 minor 7, and the G7 is the dominant, or the 5-7. Measures 3 and 4 are the same except for the initial E minor 7, which is the 3 minor 7. Notice that all the chords are diatonic to the key of C major. Diatonic here simply means that the notes that make up all these chords are part of the C major scale. Interestingly enough, according to the principles of functional harmony, only 2 of the 4 chords here serve as its raw foundation, and that is the 1 and the 5. And these are the 2 chords that define any tonal center. They are the tonic and the dominant. And I'm sure you've heard the saying that music is ongoing tension and release. Well, the dominant holds the tension, and when followed by the tonic, we encounter the release because we are home and there is a sense of rest. So where did the remaining chords come from? Here is where the key to understanding functional harmony is revealed. Each one of the 7 diatonic chords that make up a tonality belong to one of 3 functional categories: tonic, subdominant, and dominant. And the chords within each category can be interchanged for the others in that same category. And this is the principle for reharmonization at its most basic level. So here is why in a nutshell. The 3 tonic chords are the 1 major 7, the 3 minor 7, and the 6 minor 7. They all contain the 3rd and omit the 4th of the tonal centers scale, which in this case is C. So the 3rd in C major 7 is an E. Notice that there is no F, which is the 4th in the C major scale. And next you'll see that the E then becomes the root of the 3 minor 7. Notice that it also does not contain the 4th or F. Finally, the 6 minor 7 incorporates the E as its 5th. It also does not have the F or 4th in it. And this is also the relative minor and serves as a very strong substitute of the primary tonic, because not only does it contain the E but also the C, which is the root. The two subdominant chords are the 4 major 7 and the 2 minor 7. And unlike the tonic chords, they both contain the fourth or F. Furthermore, in the primary subdominant chord, which is the 4, the F is the root. And the inclusion of this fourth note is where the tension is introduced in a major progression. And if we examine the 2 minor 7 chord, we can see that the F serves as the third of the chord. Now, remember that these two chords are always interchangeable. Remember this for when we get back to rhythm changes. Okay, the two dominant chords are the 5-7 and the 7 minor 7 flat 5. And these are the most unstable or tension-producing chords in the key. And the reason for this is because not only do they contain the fourth, or the F in the case of the C major scale, but they also contain the seventh, or B. And this creates a tritone, which is the characteristic interval of every dominant and diminished chord. And notice that the same interval is present in the B minor 7 flat 5 here. As a matter of fact, a B minor 7 flat 5 can also be viewed as a G7 with the ninth, carrying the third in the bottom. That's why they are actually interchangeable. It really is the same chord. It really is a dominant with a ninth and no root. So now that we understand the three harmonic categories within functional harmony, let's go back to our rhythm changes cadence. If we strip this progression down to the bare three categories of functional harmony, what do we end up with? Well, first we want to leave the 1 major 7 or tonic intact. Next we have a 6 minor 7, which is simply another tonic chord added to create more harmonic motion. So let's just get rid of this one and leave the original 1 major 7 in its place. Next we have a 2 minor 7, which is simply taking the place of the main subdominant chord, which is the 4 major 7. So let's instead put the F major 7 back in there. Finally, we have the original 5-7, which we are going to leave in there, and presto! You can see that the essence of rhythm changes is simply a 1-4-5 progression. As a matter of fact, once you understand this, you'll begin to discover that most standard jazz progressions are based on reharmonizations of these three chords in a variety of different combinations. For example, if you take the 1-6-2-5 progression and invert it to begin with the 2, you end up with a 2-5-1-6 progression. If again we strip it down to its core essence, we end up with a 4-5-1 progression. Like I stated at the beginning, herein lies the key to understand functional harmony. So to hear one way that this knowledge can be applied, let's first recall several 1-4-5 songs that most of us know. How about La Bamba? How about Twist and Shout? Louie Louie, Wild Thing. Bringing back memories? I'm sure. At least those of you who are from my generation. But how about also Bad Moon Rising? Or for later generations, The Lion Sleeps Tonight. And of course, some Beatles songs, All You Need Is Love, and Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. And what I am going to demonstrate next is how you can take these 1-4-5 songs and apply any sophisticated rhythm changes 1-6-2-5 variation, and it will actually work. And when I say it will work, I mean that the changes will not clash with the melody. Now, whether or not you like the fact that those songs will lose their pop or rock feel is not the point here, but instead it is to gain an understanding of how functional harmony works. There are all sorts of ways this information can come in handy. I almost forgot to mention that these progressions are the basis for most of the turnarounds that you encounter in jazz standards. And of course, also like I've demonstrated, they provide the resource to simplify a harmony down to its basic components or build it up and make it a lot more sophisticated. But if you want to play jazz, you probably will spend more time doing the latter. And also keep in mind that you can apply these concepts while comping or improvising. So next, let's take a look at a few ways we can reharmonize a simple 1-4-5 progression using one of the many rhythm changes variations out there. Before I do so, I just want to let you know I've posted other lessons in the past on the subject of rhythm changes that I surely think you'll enjoy. One of them is called Rhythm Changes, Why It's Required Study for Jazz Players. And in this one I talk about the bridge, which I don't cover here, and I also give you a big list of contrafacts or bebop compositions based on the changes to rhythm changes. Another video lesson that I posted is how to solo over rhythm changes using pentatonics, which is great if you are making the transition from being a blues or rock player to starting out with jazz. And I will place a direct link to both videos in the info section down below. So let's look at the harmonic evolution of a 1-4-5 progression in the key of C. So playing basic bar chord triads we have. Now, we know that that can become a 1 major 7. We're adding the A minor 7, which is another tonic chord, and that's the 6 minor 7. And then, instead of the F, we have a D minor 7, which also has a subdominant function, and finally the dominant. I'm going to try to use the root in the bottom of each chord so you can visualize them easier. Now, if we take that 1-6-2-5 progression, substitute the 6 minor 7 for a dominant, an altered dominant, we have this. And the reason that works so well and is used a lot more frequently when playing rhythm changes than using the A minor over the 6th degree is because this dominant, even though it's not diatonic, resolves a perfect fifth down to the D minor, the 2 chord. And the other reason why it also works is because the flat 3 in the original A minor 7 is the same note as the sharp 9 in the altered chord. It's that C note. Now the next thing we can do is exchange the tonic for the 3 minor chord, which is another alternative or interchangeable chord because it also has a tonic function. And that, by the way, is a common turnaround. And what we can also do is, instead of using the altered dominant over the 6th degree, use its tritone substitution, which in this case would be an E flat dominant. And we would end up with this. could also add the 2 minor relative of that tritone substitution, and we would have this. Okay, starting to get complicated there. But another one that I really like is if we keep that tritone substitute, the E flat instead of the A altered, and also change the tonic chord at the beginning for the 3 minor 7. And we end up with this. That is also the basis for the composition by Antonio Carlos Jobim, One Note Samba. And finally, another very frequently used form of reharmonization is using diminished chords instead of the altered chords or the dominant chords. So instead of using that dominant over the 6 degree, we use a diminished chord over the sharp 1 or flat 2. We leave the 2 minor alone, and then we use another diminished chord over the flat 3 or sharp 2, however you want to look at it, and we continue it with the version of the reharmonization that uses the 3 minor to begin. And we end up with this. I want to add that the 1-6-2-5 progression also exists in minor keys, but that is something that we will have to cover in a different lesson. Nonetheless, if you find this information useful and you want to learn more, I want to invite you to check out my online Bebop Guitar Improv series of courses featuring 6 books. And there are 2 volumes, of which Volume 2 particularly deals extensively on how to improvise over various reharmonizations of rhythm changes. And you will find a direct link in the info section down below. Before I sign off, I would love to hear your comments and welcome any questions you may have about this lesson. As usual, your likes are much appreciated, and if this is your first time on this channel and you enjoyed this lesson, please be sure to subscribe. I'm Richie Zellen, and I look forward to sharing another info-filled lesson with you very soon. Until then, you know the drill. Practice, 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 rinse and repeat. May peace be with you.